News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Tuesday on Wall Street, where markets rallied, wiping out their losses for the year. We do bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 42 points. NASDAQ gained 302 points. The Dow lost 270 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.48%. The 2-year yield at 4.01%. Now, the rally was sparked by cooling tensions around President Trump's trade war and inflation data showing limited impacts. President Trump cited the softer-than-expected inflation report to pressure Fed Chair Jay Powell to lower interest rates via social media. The president says, quote, "The Fed must lower the rate like Europe and China have done." Groundwork Collaborative senior fellow Kitty Richards says the Fed is in a really complicated position.
The uncertainty created by the tariffs, I think we're not really seeing tariff effects showing up in prices yet, but that's partly just because those effects wouldn't be showing up yet. All of this has happened very rapidly.
Kitty Richards speaking with Bloomberg's Balance of Power. Now, earlier today, we learned U.S. inflation rose by less than forecast in April for a third straight month. Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice reports.
The U.S. Consumer Price Index rose a modest 0.2% in April. It's a sign there's been little urgency for American businesses to pass along the cost of higher tariffs. So far, firms stockpiled imports before U.S. duties took hold. New car prices showed no change. Apparel costs declined. There's also a major domestic angle. Egg prices dropping by the most in 41 years as bird flu ebbed. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
President Trump's first big trip overseas to Saudi Arabia, where he made several big announcements, including that he would be lifting U.S. sanctions in Syria.
The sanctions were brutal and crippling and served as an important function, nevertheless, at the time. But now it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine. We're taking them all off, and they're going to have, I think they're going to have, based on the people and the spirit and everything else that I'm hearing about. So I say good luck, Syria. Show us something very special.
President Trump is set to meet with Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa, a former al-Qaeda commander who led the overthrow of former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad. Earlier today, the president announced $600 billion in investment commitments from Saudi Arabia, including about $142 billion in defense sales. Bloomberg's Nick Wadham says details of this deal will be important.
You know, the question here is really trying to figure out how much of these commitments are just on paper and how much of them are actually going to go through. You know, that big top line number of $600 billion, that fits with what Saudi Arabia had said it wanted to do over the next 4 years and enhance trade and investment with the U.S.
Nick Wadham speaking with Bloomberg Intelligence. The Trump administration is also preparing to announce a deal granting the Gulf nation more access to advanced semiconductors to boost its AI data centers. The agreement would allow Saudi Arabia to buy 1 million chips from companies like NVIDIA, which some lawmakers are concerned could mean China could also gain access. Former U.S.-China Ambassador Nick Burns tells Bloomberg's David Gura about its latest agreement to temporarily lower tariffs to ratchet down trade tensions. He says negotiations will be difficult, but it buys the world's two largest economies 3 months to work towards a broader agreement.
This is an urgent crisis. I assume this is going to be one of the highest priorities of the Trump administration and of the Chinese government.
You can listen to that full interview on the Big Take podcast. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers says cooling off was the right thing to do.
I salute Secretary Bessent. The avoidance of value subtracted is value added. And by that standard, we added value. The United States backed off of what were extremely imprudent and potentially economically very damaging, prohibitive tariffs to the point of embargo on China.
Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers on Bloomberg Wall Street Week with David Weston. Elon Musk is also in Saudi Arabia right now and says the kingdom's approved Starlink for maritime and aviation use. Robotaxis are also ready to roll.
It would be very exciting to have autonomous vehicles here in the kingdom.
Indeed.
If you're amenable.
You heard it here from Elon. He's bringing his robotaxi to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Musk did not give a specific date on when that would happen. Singer Cassie is expected back on the stand tomorrow to continue her testimony at Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial. She says Diddy used drugs to keep her awake for days at a time to engage in his alleged sex parties. The former music mogul is accused of coercing and abusing women for decades. Amazon's Audible teaming up with U.S.-based book publishers to use AI to voice audiobooks. Publishers can select from more than 100 AI voices in English, Spanish, French, and Italian, including different accents and dialect options. Audible says audiobooks are the fastest-growing format in publishing. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.